Mehdi Hasan, the brilliant journalist, got into a bit of an online contretemps, as they say in the hood, with New York Congressman Richie Torres, allegedly over homophobia. But it's very, very weird how this played out. If you look on Twitter, you see Richie Torres jumps on and writes this. He says, homophobic haters like Mehdi Hasan will attempt to define me in the hopes of defaming me. Let me take a moment to define who I am in relation to Israel. I'm a liberal Zionist to the core. I believe Israel should exist as a Jewish state and should be strong enough to defend itself from threats like the Islamic Republic of Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and secure enough to prevent repeats of terror attacks like October 7th and the Second Intifada. I want Israel to survive and thrive as both a Jewish and a democratic state, overcoming challenges from the far left who threaten the former and from the far right who threaten the latter. I want there to be an abiding peace between Israelis and Palestinians. And I want the Palestinians to ultimately have a demilitarized state of their own that lives non-violently with the Jewish state. I dream of an Abrahamic world where Jews, Christians, and Muslims coexist in peace and prosperity, embracing our common heritage as children of Abraham. I am a critic of the modern so-called Free Palestine movement. The modern Free Palestine movement, insofar as it seeks the destruction of Israel as a Jewish state, insofar as it embraces violence as a means of achieving that end, insofar as Free Palestine shows no interest in freeing Palestinians from Hamas. I am clear-eyed enough to see the need for not only a demilitarization of Gaza, which Hamas removed from power and brought to justice, but also the need for a deeper de-radicalization that sets the stage for a sustainable Israeli-Palestinian peace. That, in a nutshell, is what I believe. And you know Richie Torres thought he ate with that post. Let me be very clear before I jump to what Mehdi Hasan said. And again, the reason Richie Torres wrote this is because Mehdi Hasan simply criticized Richie Torres because he says Islamophobic stuff. Richie Torres was criticizing the Democratic Convention. He was criticizing the Free Palestine movement. He was criticizing the people who attempted to take that stage and simply show representation of Palestinians in a party that says it's standing up for Palestinians. All Mehdi Hasan did was speak up and speak out. And then Richie Torres writes this bizarre treatise that is filled with just a bunch of foolishness, which I'll talk about. Because, yeah, he identifies as a liberal Zionist. At least you're being honest about that. But making it seem as if Israel is this innocent nation state surrounded by Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthis is ridiculous. Saying that you want Palestinians to be free and self-determined, but you want them to live in a demilitarized state. In other words, you want them to live under the weapon, under the literal gun of the Israeli military. You are talking about occupation, my friend, except we're not really friends. You keep talking about the Free Palestine movement as if it's bound up in violence, as if an oppressed and occupied people don't have a right to resist. I'm not going to adopt a respectability politics that says that somehow we can only support Palestinians if they say they're nonviolent. Sometimes you got to be violent. When you're fighting an oppressive, violent state, you absolutely have to be violent. Hugs and flowers don't get you free from an apartheid ethno state. Just saying. Anyway, we can talk about that another time. The point here is that he called Mehdi Hasan homophobic. This is a problem. Mehdi Hasan is not homophobic. Mehdi Hasan is not a hater of anybody, but certainly not of the LGBTQ plus community. He's made that clear a gajillion times. He's spoken out for them. He's spoken up for them, but he knows that if it's a Muslim and it's a brown person, all you got to do is say they're homophobic. Just like all you got to do is say they're anti-Semitic. And when you do that, people jump on it because they think Muslims and brown people are pre-modern, they're uncivilized, they're barbaric, they're anti-democratic. He's playing on all the tropes. Richie Torres knows what he's doing. He is not just a useful idiot. Some people are useful idiots. Some of these right-wingers, they don't know what they're talking about. They parrot AIPAC talking points, and they do it to the satisfaction of their bosses and to the benefit of their own economic resources. Their coffers get filled and their ballot box gets stuffed. But that's not Richie. Richie Torres is too smart to be that dumb. Richie Torres was on the right side of this issue before he was on the wrong side of this issue. He knows where his bread is going to get buttered, and so he continues to follow it, even if it means smearing Mehdi Hasan. And so Mehdi wrote this in response. I won't do it in a British accent, although I'm very tempted to, but y'all would make fun of me because I do a terrible British accent. He said, FYI, for the newcomers, easily fooled, I've spent years defending the rights of gay people in Muslim countries. And he gives a link. He said, as well as here in the United States, from Richie Torres' Trumpist friends. Because remember, even though Richie's a Democrat on Israel, except for Palestine, he's a right-winger. On national television, it's literally on tape. But then he shows you him defending LGBT folk. But here is what Richie is doing, because they go back and forth. You can see for yourself on Twitter. What Richie Torres is doing is taking an old comment that Mehdi Hasan made decades ago and using it as if it is a measure of who he is now. Yes, I have to be honest. I'm a journalist. I got to tell the truth. Mehdi Hasan has made a homophobic comment before. He has talked about when he was a hyper-religious kind of posture, talking about queer people, but also straight people, talking about Muslims and non-Muslims, sort of what it means to veer from the path of Allah. This means to be Allah, right? That's the idea. And he was wrong for that. Mehdi was wrong for what he said. But let's not act like he said it yesterday. He said it decades ago. And since then, he has identified his own words. He has spoken up and spoken out about those words. He has rejected homophobia. He has rejected those words. And he hasn't just rejected the words, he's made the word flesh. In other words, after Mehdi spoke out against homophobia and denounced his own words, he has spent decades now standing up for LGBTQ plus folk. What else you want the man to do? There's nobody who thinks Mehdi Hasan is homophobic, including Richie Torres. But this is the game that he plays. Richie Torres is dishonest. Richie Torres is untrustworthy. Richie Torres is unprincipled. And I'm glad Mehdi clapped back. I want you to go to Twitter and read the whole exchange between both of them. But please understand that this is the game that they play in this world. The struggle of Israel-Palestine, you're going to get smeared if you take the right side of history. If you challenge Zionism, you're going to get smeared. And you just get smeared with anti-Semitism. But now he's smearing them with homophobia. Wow.